they don't care about you as a human being. Trust me on that. They really don't care about you. They'll squeeze every last bit of money they can out of you. And then at the end, when the gravy train ends, they'll just throw you to the side and that's it, on to the next person. What is going on, everybody? It's Kritikal Powers. Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, I want to discuss the dark reality of the music industry. I specifically want to discuss record labels and the record deals and what to look out for, particularly major record deals. And the reason I'm doing this is because I feel like I've got a responsibility to the next generation of young people that are considering going into the music business. I want people to be able to make an informed decision before they make any decision about going into the music industry, because it's definitely not what it looks like on the outside. For those of you who don't know, I never got a major record deal, but I was an artist for over 18 years and I got close enough to see exactly what the industry was like, and I wanted to share my experience and knowledge with you so that hopefully, people don't fall for the mistakes that a lot of people do. So I'm going to give everyone sort of a scenario that you can follow. So hopefully it makes a bit more sense. So an artist becomes known locally first, right? They're making noise in the local area and, they're walking down the street and they hear someone playing their music in the car. Great feeling. They're doing local shows, starting to get a bit of a buzz in their local area. Then the artist gets known on a wider scale. So maybe nationally, maybe a music video pops off on, I don't know, GRM Daily or P110 or SBTV or whatever it may be. Maybe it was a dance that popped off on TikTok. This is still a good stage, I think, in the industry because it's generally still organic and people are really just enjoying what you do. There's a big buzz around it. Now, if you're generating a large enough buzz and, you're shutting down shows, that is when the labels start knocking on your door. And this is every artist's dream, innit? I want a record deal. Well, this is when the main problems start to arise, in my opinion. So let me just explain what a record deal actually is. And I'm talking about major labels here. Just so the independent labels, they're not too bad. They're more sort of organic and sometimes artist run and things like that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about major record labels. So a record deal is a loan to the artist. It's called an advance. So the label will lend the artist, let's just say it's £100,000, right? The key word being lend here, because that money has to get paid back to the label. That artist has to pay that money back to the record label by way of, music sales, shows, etc. Out of that £100,000, the album has to be made, music has to be produced, it's got to be recorded, it's got to be packaged, and whatever in the contract, the label contract, the record deal itself has to be fulfilled. You also are going to pay tax on that £100,000. Don't forget that. After the album releases, right, you as the artist, you don't make a penny until that money is paid back to the label. That £100,000 advance that you got, that has to get paid back first. So no one is paying you one penny until you pay back that £100,000. It's a loan. After the money's recouped, and it doesn't always get recouped. So this is what the record label's argument generally is that they are taking a risk on you as the artist, which they are taking a risk. I'll give them that. But it depends on the artist. It depends on how much buzz they've generated. It depends what back catalogue they've got. There's loads of different factors in that scenario. So yes, they're taking a risk and they will lose money on artists. But if they're going after someone, poaching someone who's really massively known, then they're not taking that much of a risk, really. So after that money is recouped, All the money's paid back to the label. You will then earn money from royalties and merch, show tickets, sales, all of that stuff. And it's all based on royalties. So there are royalty splits which are decided and negotiated within the contract stage. Some artists might get 25% of their total revenue stream. So that's live shows, streams, merch, etc., etc. This is where it's so important to get that contract looked at by a professional music lawyer, solicitor, don't care who it is. You have to invest in that because they could potentially save you millions of pounds throughout your career. So get the contract looked at properly. They can negotiate on your behalf. If you don't, you are making a huge mistake. The label's going to take everything it can from you. They'll own the masters to your music. They'll make money from you every single step of the way of your whole career. And a record contract is usually over a certain period of time or over so many projects or albums. So they might say, right, we're going to sign you. We want you for 5 albums. Right, well, you think how long does it take to produce an album? Easily 2 years, yeah, on average, I would say. So 2 years, 5 albums, that's 10 years. So you are going to be in this record deal that you can't get out of for 10 years, which is probably the best years of your life in terms of being signed as an artist. In terms of the creativity and the output that you're putting out, it could be 3 albums, it could be 2 albums. You know, they're all different. This is why it's really important to negotiate the terms of the contract. Now, there's a deal called a 360 deal, and many artists have been stung with this in the past. I'm sure Endub's actually got a 360 deal, but I couldn't confirm that online. I've heard that in the past, though. A 360 deal means the artist pays money to the record label from everything they earn, right? So that can include stuff like, say, you get an acting job. So you star in a TV show on Netflix or whatever. A brand deal. Maybe you do public speaking at an event. Maybe you do meet and greets at the shows. It's any revenue outside of music. The label want a piece of that. Because the label look at it like, well, if it wasn't for us putting all this investment and time and money and marketing into this artist, they wouldn't have that opportunity in the first place. So they want all of that, and they will get it. Trust me, if you're in one of them deals, they will get it. The stronger the position you are in before you go into those negotiations, the better percentage you're going to get. So say like you've got an enormous fan base and you're generating over £1 million a year in revenue for yourself as an artist. That label's got to work really, really hard and pay you a massive amount of money to even consider moving over to a record label because they've done all of the work, you know. And it brings me on to my next point, which is if you're being offered a record deal, you don't need a record deal. That's just my opinion. Because the reason you're being offered a record deal is because the label is seeing pound signs. Yeah. They're thinking, we can make a lot of money out of this artist. The music industry is a business at the end of the day. And as an artist, you essentially become a can of Coke sat on a shelf in Morrison's. That's basically what it is. You're packaged up really nicely. You know, you're put into a position where more people see you, branding, distributed into places, which is all designed to generate them more money, ultimately. That's what it is. It's a business. You know, they'll put you in situations where, like I say, it might generate more money. So, for example, they might get you on a big featured artist album. You know, like you'll get a Quavo collaboration or French Montana jump on a track or whatever it may be. So let's use Central C as an example, right? He signed a deal last year with Columbia for $25 million. That's a massive amount of money for a record deal, by the way. 25 million is not the normal amount you would get for a record deal, if I'm being totally honest. But he had a lot of leverage. He had a lot of people listening to him. He was in a position of power, basically. And I believe that contract is for 2 albums. But he had a massive audience. And, you know, you start seeing now he's getting plugged into brand deals. He's got a Nike Max Trainer coming out, collaboration, I think. You know, he's working with Nike. And that's because he's got massive appeal to young people. You know, these companies know that young people love Central C. They love wearing Nike. You know, they love wearing branded jackets and, you know, urban culture, urban clothing, all that kind of stuff. So they're plugging him into it because they know it's highly likely that those are going to sell because young people love him. So that's how the industry works. You're a product that is sold. They don't care about you as a human being. Trust me on that. They really don't care about you. They'll squeeze every last bit of money they can out of you. And then at the end, when the gravy train ends, they'll just throw you to the side and that's it, on to the next person. Honestly, seen it time and time again. If you do your research, you'll see everything I'm saying is the truth. It's a dark place, the music industry, I tell you. It's built on greed, and the industry doesn't care who it stands on to make money. It's as simple as that. The label always wins. Even though they're saying, we're the ones taking the risks and we lose a lot of money, investing in artists that never blow up. Well, that's true, but that one artist that does blow up, they make all that money back, and then they're loaded from that. Sometimes for over 10 years. I mean, it's crazy how they use people. We have to be aware of this. I never knew any of this when I was a young person coming into the game. I just wanted to make music and I thought it was great, and whatever else, and mastered the craft, and it becomes less about the craft and more about the business. And I hated that. I think takes the enjoyment out of it. But I bet for Central C on that $25 million contract, I bet there was a massive bidding war for him. Because to get $25 million, that's an extensive advance, man. Like, massive. So what I'd suggest, if you're really going to do it, build your own brand, build your own websites, do a lot of shows, and make and release a lot of music, more than people can handle, because especially nowadays, the people that get bored really, really quickly. They want it now, instant, bang, bang, bang. You've got to do it quick. You've got to keep putting out new content, new material all the time. That's my advice. Make sure you get a contract looked over for sure. That's priority number one. Don't ever sign your name onto a dotted line when you don't know what it means in anything. You can't do that. Okay? It's really, really important you get that checked out by a professional who knows the score when it comes to the music industry and record deals. You might pay them thousands and thousands of pounds. It's going to be worth it if they've saved you over $1 million, innit? And none of this information takes into account, by the way, the fact that people are manipulated in the music industry. They're sold a dream by incredibly powerful people. They'll say, well, we'll give you a record deal, but we want this and this and this from you. And it's manipulation and to do, things unimaginable, which is happening at the moment, which I'm not going to mention. You know exactly what I'm talking about, though. So yeah, I hope that's helpful to someone out there. Please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow our podcast as well. We've got more podcasts coming up. The Real Talk podcast with Kritikal Powers, at Kritikal Powers on all the socials. Thank you so much. Take care. Peace.